All right, welcome back everybody to In Shambles. I am Matthew Shuckman, and I'm here with Nadia Martinez, Gotham Geek Girl. Always great to see you.
Let's go.
And yeah, and of course, we are an Last of Us podcast. And again, I think everybody knows this by this point, but just in case, we are two people who have played the game, who are obsessed with the game. I would say at this point, I don't know about if I could say that about you, but it's about for me for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I spent like 10 hours today playing again.
Replaying it, we should say for everybody who's
Yeah.
listening. So like a lot of our point of view does come from a comparison for the most part, but also just talking about the episodes in general. So we come through episode three, the path, and again just to kick things off, what are your initial thoughts?
On this episode,
Yeah.
um, it's definitely a lot slower than last week. Yeah, it was like a 180. They completely changed the pace. I think, without getting into too much, I think what they're trying to do is make an outline. Um, like trying to explain pieces, if that makes sense. Like,
It's I mean, there's a lot. I don't mean to cut in, but there's a lot of specific themes that you get through the game that they are laying out the groundwork a lot more for just through certain dialogue between characters, whether they were in the game or not in the game. Like the whole speech between Gale and Tommy is definitely kind of laying out this idea, and that they don't verbally talk about in the game. But it's clear as far as the story goes, and something that I've been obsessed with that I'm hoping comes through the way they do it in the TV show is this idea that look, I know people kind of get upset when I say things that are derogatory toward Joel and or Ellie or something like that. I'm not trying to say anything against them in a certain way, but it's this idea that I'm sorry, but the fact of the matter is that Joel was always a selfish person. Period. The things he did for himself. I kind of not argue with people, but I have to point out to a lot of people when because I watch even people watching the first episode and they're talking about how it's like before he even says I saved her. It's like, yeah, you saved her, and they talk about it in a way that they'll say like, yeah, maybe there was a cure, maybe there wasn't. They try and find ways to make themselves sound. They make up a reason to explain why it would have never worked,
mhm.
and so he did the right thing, kind of thing. But the whole point is that he didn't save her for her sake. He saved her for his sake. And Ellie takes that on in as far as the story of the game goes. The whole idea is that she is the mirror image of him. And so that discussion between Gale and Tommy kind of leads into that idea, but you don't get the full story until you kind of see it go along. And so it's like it's interesting that they're playing into those things so early on. But like what I liked about the game is it didn't have to be said. It's just obvious.
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit in episode one that we feel like, because we mentioned Gail is not in the game. So she's this like psychiatrist figure. So it's kind of like they're using her as a voice to explain, like you said, like things that were shown. Maybe we won't get some flashback scenes. Maybe certain things are mostly gonna be like verbally said to express feelings, if that makes sense. And
Well, there
like,
are there are some flashbacks I know for sure happening. I just don't
oh
know
yeah, like
which
the
ones. Yeah.
major ones. But I just feel like let's say they showed coffee beans. They showed Ellie leaving
Yeah.
coffee beans. I don't know if we're gonna get the scene of
Well, if we do, it's not going to happen until season three, I think.
yeah, I'm very like trying to be careful with
We're
what I
trying we're
say.
trying to be as bland as vague as
Yeah.
we can. Everybody, sorry for those who don't know the game, of course, but those who know, they know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. No. But and that's the thing too. It's like, again, changes are going to be made. I'm fine with a lot of them. Like, but it does feel weird when you're first seeing it, like because you are so used to it going a certain direction. So like when there's all of a sudden 3 month time skip
Yeah.
after that the assault there, it's like, oh, it feels wrong. Like how are they going to do it? Like, but then when you see it happen, it's okay. And grant now again, this is where I'm going to be as vague as I can. But like the decision to be that there are other people who were technically involved in leaving the Jackson not happening, at least at this point, or maybe, I mean, it's gonna happen at one point or another, but like that, it feels weird. It feels awkward.
I
But
was just gonna
obviously,
spoil it. Sorry.
yeah, no, go.
I'm happy you
You
said
want to
that.
spoil it?
No, I was just about to, so I'm happy you said that because you caught
Yeah.
me.
Well, I mean, like, and well, and that goes into, and this is attempting to, because clearly there are going to be people that are going to appear in the show at a certain point for, still, like, we're still going to see Tommy, we're still going to see Jesse, we're still going to see all Maria, all these people, and that's not saying that they're going to appear anywhere specific, but the idea being that they're clearly leading into things that will play out later on. Like, I think clearly Jesse voted no for them leaving, and they're
Mm.
they're 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 highly implying that. And so when you get to some of his speeches later on that you're used to in the game, it's going to be interesting to see how those kind of tie into each other. And I do love the fact that a lot of people, I'm watching a lot of people respond to the show, and like at first I thought they were going to love Jesse as much as us who play the game love Jesse, but they all fucking love Jesse, so it's good to see. But that all that feels awkward.
Yeah, like even the whole council thing. I'm like, I'm not trying to make any Walking Dead comparisons, but I'm starting to feel like they're trying to. I don't know how to even word this. Like, I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but I feel like they're trying to like expand the expand the relevancy of other people, I guess.
And that's okay
Like
though, I think. Yeah.
it's more like world building, I guess,
Yeah.
in a sense, because like I always go back to like they already showed the scars, and I was like, what the fuck? That's like 50 hours too early. But getting myself out of game mentality,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to like try to like not think of like spending 50 hours like through the trenches like of the actual gameplay. They have to at some point, because what is this, 8 episodes?
7.
Seven. That's even scarier. So 7 episodes, I feel like they're gonna have to like escalate some things to kind of like map out how the show is gonna go.
Well, I'm like, and again, like, I'm fine with them. And I will say this early on in case people feel weird if we say it one way or the other. When we say scars and or seraphites, same
Yeah.
people, same
Yeah.
people. But it's easier to say scars, especially now for people who only see the TV show and didn't get the explanation. Seeing the scars on their face, they get
Hmm.
it. But and I'm fine with them introduced. I knew they were going to be introduced earlier. I thought it was going to be in a slightly different manner, and it may still be the way I thought about it. But this was very awkward because you just cut to that story of them very quickly, and then come back, and then don't come back to it again at the end of the episode. I feel like you could have not shown that story of them on the road earlier, shown them
Hmm.
arriving in Seattle, seeing that, and then either the next episode or when it comes time, you can call back to it at that point. I think the very small clip at the beginning of the episode, it feels disjointed and awkward to be there.
Well, I guess that goes back to like the whole Walking Dead comparison I made with like the world building sense, because like even showing the wolves, like showing them having numbers
Yeah.
and all the tanks and all that, it feels like they're trying to establish like the what was the word they used in The Walking Dead? But it feels like they're trying to like establish the different like sectors, like the different groups of enemies. So like how you had I can't remember the governor. It's been a while since I watched The Walking Dead, but like they're different groups.
Something with an H. Uh,
I can't think right now.
was it Hill? It was no, it wasn't with an H. I can't remember either. That's interesting. I
Not
thought I could know that
Hilltop
right off the
or
top of my
something,
head.
something like that. They had the
Yeah.
Hilltop people, whatever. I can't remember. But the point is, I feel like that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to like establish like different groups. I don't know. It's weird. Like you said, it's not. I liked it. It's not that I didn't like it. It's
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
we're just trying to understand, I guess, how they're trying to, like I said, outline the show.
Well, that's the thing too, because again, it's like I appreciate you doing things differently, but I still feel, and I'm not trying to, I feel like I'm a broken record all the time, especially with this. But I still feel you could have done this in a way where you could have still kept the mystery a little bit.
Hmm.
and still done the interweaving at the same time. Because what I find funny is, again, apparently their explanation as to why they dropped the bomb that they were both Fireflies and that Jerry was, for the people who didn't play the game, Jerry's the doctor's name, was Abby's dad. So early on in the show is because, oh, they want you to maybe understand a bit more because they don't want to like kind of fill all that hate on the character, so give her a little bit more of a sympathy early on, and also for people who didn't play the game who can just kind of keep playing and find out. Other people have to wait a while, which I still think is very strange because I think that would have been a great cliffhanger ending to show you that at the end of this season. But that all being said, I'm watching people react to it who haven't played the game before, and the way they talk about Abby, the way they scream and yell about Abby is the same goddamn way everybody who
It
played the game
is.
before they knew. Same fucking thing.
Like I
So
have
there was no
friends that
point to
never
do what you
played the
did.
game that were like like they were like, I'm ready to give up this show. And I was like, no, absolutely not.
But it's not even, or just the pure hatred and the vitriol.
Yeah.
The way they talk, it's the same rhetoric. So it feels like it was pointless. And I thought they could have masked it to be because again, even the idea is that the characters don't know. You know, Dina, Tommy, Ellie, they all don't know.
Hmm.
But that's what I find it weird too because I mean it may pop up in the show and this isn't really a spoiler in my mind, so I'm gonna say don't worry about this. But there's a line early on when they're first arriving in Seattle in the game where, and I think it was actually I think maybe when Dina and Ellie were starting their patrol, in where Ellie just talks about the fact that Joel's pissed off a lot of people all over the fucking U.S. And so there's a lot of people who just are out there gunning for him. And it seems weird that, Dina doesn't, she's just like, why would you put me to sleep? Why was any of this happening? She doesn't even question why they basically technically targeted Joel. And it feels like, again, that there's that mystery could have been layered in and they just didn't do it. And, yeah, I'm gonna stop treading over the same ground with that if I can, but it's just like, it just feels so awkward.
I guess
Um,
to piggyback off that though, the way the episode opened, like with Ellie's trauma, was great. Like I think Bella
they're laying the
is,
tracks for PTSD, big time.
yeah, like she's proving herself, like why she was cast for this role. Like I'm always gonna go back to I think they're still too young, that they should have aged them up. I'll always stick with that. But I think she's showing us like why she was cast. Like she's great.
Yeah, and for
Her
anybody,
portraying, yeah.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, yeah, just like her portraying like her sadness and her anger and hiding it. And then like that scene was in the game where she finds the watch and she finds Joel's gun and she's like crying with the jacket. Like
Yeah.
that was really moving. Like I thought that scene was done really well.
And not to say that anybody's going to say anything, but I just thought about this, and to preempt it in case anybody does, because there's a lot of people out there that like they'll go like Bella prefers they them pronouns stuff like
Oh my
that. I
God,
just
yes,
saw an I just saw an
I'm
interview with
so
her where
bad
she
at
said she
that.
does not care.
They I feel
No, she because you did it. You were saying it, and then you went to her. But it's fine because I literally an interview with her from a few days ago where she said it's fine. She doesn't care. Whatever's easiest for people to say. And I'm not trying to say that that means you should go one way or the other. I'm just saying it's not a big deal
yeah.
as far as in her mind, I should say. Um, but all of that means, sorry, I am a little, and I granted, I know that there's time for things to change, and I'm not trying to say it has to be the same way, but I am super confused as to why they're taking the time to make you question whether or not Dina and Ellie have a relationship or not.
Yes. So also the fact that they pushed this 3 months later, they haven't spoke about it this whole time. Like they made it seem like Dina was like visiting her in the hospital or something because she's like you weren't there. So it's like I'm guessing they've had a conversation within these 3 months and they really did not talk about it. Like
I mean, well, they said, I mean, I guess it goes along with the same thing as why she didn't talk about the Joel stuff because they say they don't want to get her agitated or something. Excuse me. Wow. They don't want to get Ellie agitated or anything like that. But even still, it's just like you waited all that time, even when you're on the road a little bit together. Because yeah, at that point, it's at least a week's, that you're on the road together to make it to Seattle. And you're basically outside Seattle and you're like, oh, well, let's talk about the kiss now. Um, you
And
know, where
also, it didn't seem as impactful as it did in the game, that scene at all.
well, the fact she said, "Oh, I'm back with Jesse," by the way,
Yeah,
which I mean,
we know why, but we'll,
yeah, with that we won't talk about, even
yeah.
though there are things technically. Maybe at the end of before we finish this episode, we'll say, "All right, super spoiler version, shut off now if you don't want to know," and then we can just talk about a few things. Um, because there's some stuff that happened, which again, I don't care. I'm actually fine with it happening this early, in that sense, compared to the game kind of thing. Um, but it's just it just doesn't like I have to we all have to see where they're going, and I'm trying to just stick with that every time I watch any of the episodes, but it just feels like there are things that could have been avoided and they're just purposely putting themselves in avenues they didn't have to put themselves in, and I don't know why. Even with their explanations, it doesn't make sense to me.
Didn't you also point out like they forgot her horse?
Well, I was gonna say that too. Like, we didn't mention it on the recording. I talked about it off the recording because Shimmer's back again, and like, I thought it was funny because everybody's obviously who either didn't play the game or those who just are sat and wrapped up in Joel dying. We're all that's what they were talking about that night after the episode airs, and I'm all like, "Hey, they showed up with four horses. They left with only two. One of them was not Shimmer. Justice for Shimmer. It was very strange to me. Like again, I know it's probably just a mistake, or maybe they said like, oh well, we'll come back for the other horses or something like that. I don't care at that point. I was just like, yeah, they left Shimmer up there, which they clearly got Shimmer back. But I do. However, though, I do love Ellie's like military cache in her goddamn living space. That was ridiculous in a good way. I think that was hilarious. Yeah.
That just reminded me, like I was gonna say, I do love that they show Dina's like planning and like all the supplies and like the planning ahead because again, back to gaming, we just like look for shit and find shit as we go along. But like in real world setting, of course you're gonna be looking for shit, but it's not gonna be every draw you check. Like every building you check is magically gonna have the alcohol you need and magically gonna have, so it's like I like that like they th plan that ahead. Like the things that we need to survive, the amount of bullets we need, the kind of guns we can carry, the kind of weight we can carry. Because obviously in the game we're not changing clothes. Like,
Well, also the fact that they bring the map with them.
yeah.
I mean, which also I think maybe they're not going to do that, but it clearly means that they're going to follow that tail of the map, if you want to call it that. Again,
Mm.
being vague for the rest of the game, so like that idea that it's not something you just find randomly laying around. But there's just so much. Again, this feels like it's just another primer episode. Like it's just getting you ready for what's to come next. Now, I should say that again, I try to avoid trailers and stuff like that. I did accidentally see the little thing they put after the show about what's, coming up on, which will technically be next week's episode kind of thing. And there was one very interesting thing I saw in there.
Mm.
Um, which I won't, which for your sake too, I won't mention specifically. Um, but it's an interesting way to do what we know is going to happen for those who played the game. But again, that also comes to, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later when we can talk a little more openly about things, but the way that, again, that they're dealing with Dina and Ellie's relationship makes it odd for what we know is coming because it doesn't now it feels accelerated.
Hmm.
Because like in the game, the idea is those weeks that they had traveling together even before that, even while they're on while because like for people who haven't played the game, I think we talked about it last week, but very specifically, it's Dina and Ellie. They're on patrol together, not Dina and Jesse. They're in the Eugene's weed factory, which is under a
Yep.
library, and they basically. I mean, I don't think we see it. I mean, I think it's implied that they basically just slept together at that point.
Yeah. That was like
And
their first like real like intimate moment where we
yeah,
see like they're establishing an actual relationship.
and so that idea being that those 2 weeks of them traveling between Jackson to Seattle, they just grew the relationship even more to the point that when they're just entering Seattle, it's almost like, I mean, I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it's like they're talking about like using terms of like girlfriend
Hmm.
and or partner. Um, so now it feels like when we get to the more random, I don't know, um, parts of their relationship, it's going to be like now this seems like it's happening way too quick. Um, but again, I'm gonna hold off. That's just my initial thought based on what I think I saw, but I I'll
Two
wait.
things for me. That totally, I feel like pacing has me concerned because now we have 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
And then there's, I guess, Abby will be season 3. I don't really know.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I from what I understand, and I'm only this for positive, it's like it will be that we're going to be very bereft of Caitlin Deaver for almost most of the rest of the season.
yeah.
I could
So
be
I'm
wrong though.
like, I don't know, just the pacing seemed a little off to me with certain storylines, like we were just saying. And I don't know, does like the whole baseball field thing kind of annoyed me a lot for some reason. It's something so stupid and so like tedious, but it felt too safe. Like ridiculous. Like a little ridiculous for me.
Well, I mean, that's again, that's weird watching again, watching the people who haven't. Wow, excuse me. I apologize, everybody. How
Allergy
awful that
season.
sounded and looked. Um, it is weird to me. I keep saying it's weird to me. I say that over and over again now. Um, because people who are watching the show that have never played the game, honestly, even people who played the game or say they played the game, or maybe didn't play it that much or only played it one time, like talking about it, like they were Jackson was not attacked in the game, so this kind of pleasant lifestyle feeds through. It's like it's always there. It's never a thing in the game. I watch people reacting to the show like asking people who played the games like, "Oh, does this happen in the game?" And like, "Oh yeah, it does." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." It's like, "What are you talking about?"
No, it doesn't.
And then I think they think the horde that chases Abby in the game makes it to Jackson, which it never does. I've seen other people who say they played the game saying like, "I don't remember this scene with the fence." I'm like, if you don't remember that,
The
you didn't
fence
play the
is
game. I'm
iconic.
sorry. There's no way that happened. Um, or like the fact that this has nothing to do with the game at this point, though. But I'm a little bothered by the fact I've seen a lot of people clearly not like. Granted, I can miss things. Last week on the second episode, something happened at the beginning, and I didn't hear Jesse's whole speech about the dead under the snow using the infected under the snow using their dead as insulation. I kind of missed parts of that,
Hmm.
so it did confuse me a little bit at first. But I'm watching people react to this saying that, oh, this maps out the way they talk about it is like this also it's not just Joel. Jackson got attacked because of Abby. I'm like, no, that guy hit that pipe, still would have bought all that shit to Jackson.
Yeah, that was irrelevant to that.
Exactly. It just and so like people like that's kind of obvious to me, but people are just like, oh well, now it's like kind of giving them a reason to like blame Abby also for
Hmm.
this other thing. I'm like, no, she yeah, did she wake up the first portion of it? Yeah, but they were gonna go to the lodge, and again, the amount of people, the amount of them chasing after her by the end of it was still large, but it's less, and they were taken out by a few Molotov cocktails at the lodge gate. It was much different. And again, I'm not upset about the change, but I'm upset about the way people seem to be reacting to it.
Like making their own narrative.
Oh my God, there's so many out there. Well, here, let me ask you this, because I both agree and disagree that there's possibly because we again they keep trying to push the story about how, and we know because we know we're getting a flashback with Eugene in it, and they keep trying to push this idea of like, well, how exactly did he die? How exactly did Joe kill him? Because they say, oh, it was just the way he did it, blah blah blah. But people are trying to now make it the assumption that since Eugene was a Firefly, that he somehow got in contact with other Fireflies, and that's how they found out about Joel. And they're trying to say Joel killed him because that doesn't make any sense. With the
Eh.
story, even with the story the TV show's telling, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, maybe something happens where it does like that, but I think it's more the implication about how Joel does it without feeling.
Yeah.
I think that's going to come down to. It's like he just does it as it's a matter of fact, has to be done instead of just like, oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, a lot of people are trying to create storylines that I don't think exist at all. I could be wrong though. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. I just don't want to get into spoilers, but I'm just like, I feel like that was like the whole beauty of the game because obviously when we played the first one, we're like, just shooting off, like kill everybody, kill them all. And then like by the time we get to like what's happening like later, you're like questioning was Joel right? Like and like that's the whole narrative like you said like the whole conversation with Tommy like where he has this whole like thing where it's like was Joel right? And you start questioning it like was Joel right? And then like Ellie starts questioning, it's just like I'm so curious.
It's what bothers me the most is, and it's going to be tough because like we have to wait till they get, and I'm talking about by the end of season, because again, if I remember correctly, they said there will be 4 seasons now.
Mm.
Season 4 being the very end of the game of part 2.
Really? I thought four would be if they make a third game.
From what I understand, now this is slight minor spoilers, everybody. I think we mentioned it previously, so just in case. From what I understand, is season 4 is going to be Santa Barbara, and
Oh
they're just going
yes,
to
I
make
think it's just
one
yeah,
whole
yeah,
season
yeah,
out of
yeah.
Santa Barbara.
Interesting.
Um, and I could have misheard that. I don't know. But the idea is that we can't really talk about a lot of this stuff until we get there, and
Yeah.
that's going to be a while. And and I'm just afraid that the show may not. It's obviously doing the job of trying to point out a lot of these themes, but I fear they're widening it up so much that it's going to kind of miss the larger point, and it bothers me because I hear the way people talk about it now, whether it's they've played the game and they're talking about the game, or they're just watching the show and the way they're talking about things. Like I think they're gonna completely miss the point, and because all of the vitriol and hate that people spew out, they refuse to be introspective about it in any way whatsoever because they just see things as TV characters.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take it onto as what if in the real world, because we'll talk about it by the end of the show, I will say, and I mean like end of season, whatever, because there were some real world stuff that inspired why this story was told this way, and I feel that people completely miss the point of it, and it's like that's why we are live in such um a hate not hateful world, but it is a hateful world, but like in a world where none of us can agree on anything, and we can't just get along kind of thing. I'm trying to talk about it without talking about it. And it's very hard to do. So I will stop there my ranting at this point because it's like it almost feels deflating. But with that, let's do okay, everybody now who has not played the game or doesn't know anything about the story going forward, press stop now.
Yeah. I do wanted to say one more thing. There
Okay,
were no
before that, or don't stop press stop now. That one more thing. Sorry.
there were no cordyceps in this episode,
That's fine, I guess, right? I mean, we cut
right?
through
I don't
months ahead of
think
time. I'm sure they cleared them all out of the
even
pipes.
on their path, I was like,
Well, that's the other thing that bothers me too. But and this is not about that there being there. It's just that I constantly hear people again who have even played the game, and that's not anything to do with the game. I constantly hear people who have even not played the game call the cordyceps spores. A spore, even if in just general knowledge, is a particle floating through the air. Stop calling the tendrils spores, please. Like,
the
it's like
spores are when they're in the dark with all the smoke and the
it's just particles in the air, but it's just in
when they
general. It has
need the
nothing to do with
mask, when
yeah.
everyone needs a mask but Ellie.
Well, I mean that and spores will come back apparently, from what I've seen and what I heard. But please, because it's confusing to me, like the way people talk about some of these things are just really confusing to me. Okay, now if you've never played, I mean, we're not going to go into too much of a spoiler discussion because we're gonna go soon, but just a few things. So stop now if you've never played the game or don't know the story or don't care, or if you care about not wanting to hear things. Okay, you've left now, everybody. Thank you. So I'm totally cool with with Dina throwing up this early. In terms of, but again, that's like if they're not in a relationship at this point, the pregnancy annunciation's going to come very soon. And that feels like now, like that means that's not that important. The only thing that important to Ellie about that is just that she shouldn't be here. Not that it's somebody that she loves and cares about who also is reciprocating that already. That fits into that whole conundrum, which I guess
That's
really doesn't matter because again, it's just like her health that should be all that matters. But it just feels so awkward that we're
I
doing
just
that quick.
feel like that movie theater is like an essential place. Like we come back to it like 4, 5 times. So I'm like, that should be in like 3 episodes. Like it's
I don't want to ruin anything. Pretty sure it's going to be next episode that they make it there.
that's crazy.
Yeah, but you know what? It's weird because I think for game time compared to what we're seeing here, as of now, it makes sense, I guess. Because again, especially since Seattle Day One is so open world, it eats up a lot more time than other sections than you may think.
Because
Um,
the second time Ellie leaves the theater, the first time Ellie leaves the theater, she's looking for Tommy
yeah,
and she finds
Jesse.
Jesse.
Well, is that the first time she leaves?
I
Yeah, well, the
think the
first time, yeah,
first
it has to be.
time.
Yeah, yeah, of
And then
course, yeah.
so I'm just like time
Well,
wise, like I said, I'm concerned with pacing. I just
well,
don't want them to rush certain things. Like especially like you just said, if they haven't established their relationship yet, it just feels like pacing is a little off still for me.
well, now it feels weird. Like now, again, it makes sense that because now I feel like it's going to be Tommy and Jesse together going out to get them back, clearly. Like that's the only way I
Yeah.
imagine. Because there's no way they're leaving Tommy and Jackson. There's no way, granted, they may change things. I'm not trying to say
They already
uh
left him behind before. They can't leave him behind now.
like I'm not yeah, but it's like I'm not trying to say that they're going to uh they have to have the sniper shootout with Manny and Abby at one point or another. So like Tommy's got to be there for that. So that means he's got to be there in general. So I guess Tommy and Jesse come together, but it's just like that idea of, now granted, I know that that scene in the game was kind of controversial because they tried to fake people out by making that scene Joel in the trailer when he puts the hand over her mouth and is like, "What are you doing here?" Um, but like it again, it affects the way. Again, they don't have to do it the same. I'm not. They're not going to necessarily do it the same. I get that, but um, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, especially now that the Dina and Ellie have left on their own first compared to
I feel like I could
Tommy.
have said before, but it's okay. Um, Maybe I'm wondering if they're gonna make one episode a flashback, like the entire episode a flashback.
It's
I'm
got to be at this
curious
point, and
how they're handling this.
I still think it's going to be like all not all the flashbacks, but it's going to be like one long flashback from teaching her guitar
Hmm.
to
Her
her going back
birthday.
to her going to the hospital and finding all the recordings and him finally admitting it to her. Like that's going to be the flashback episode. The question is, I think now I was surprised because originally I didn't think this. I think that's going to end up being our season ender. I think instead of the confrontation with Abby and then switching back or anything like that, that's gonna maybe our season ender. I'm not sure. It's again, it's gonna be interesting. I don't. Do you want me to tell you what I saw in the little trailer sneak peek or no?
Nah,
Okay.
I still rather see how the show is.
I mean, it's something you know. They just do it a different. They just do it in a different way. Um, but it's like I'm curious. I'm curious about a lot of things, obviously. But it's just like this whole thing with the Dina and Ellie relationship, I think, is now my new. How can they give away the Abby dad thing so early? Now it's my like, why are Ellie and
Yeah,
Dina so
why?
weird? um, shouldn't
So,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I
No, no,
was gonna
you.
say like one of my issues with the ending of Game of Thrones was it took years to like get anywhere. Like literal like an entire season to get from point A to point B. And like winter's coming, winter's coming. And then like the last season it was like like Jamie Lannister took a horse like down the block and he was there. So like I feel like I'm annoyed with this pacing because I know like I said I have to take out the gamer mindset of how
Yeah.
long it took to do things, but I still feel like they're cheating the audience from moments. Like just getting from like point A to point B took hours and hours of gameplay, but we still learned lessons. We still found notes. We still like, like you said, like the whole scene, like between her and Dina taking place at the weed shop, like they, smoked weed and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that that's important, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's skimming over moments.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I was fine with them skipping that per se. Like, I mean, I get it. I wanted it to be there, but I'm okay with them skipping it because, again, I like the idea of actually Dina on patrol with Joel because I think
Establishing their, I guess, like
not only
friendship.
that, I think there's implications with the idea that Abby thinks Dina is the immune one. I think because she doesn't know Ellie by name
Hmm.
or by sight or anything like that. She just knows there was a girl that's supposed to be immune, and she just sees Joel with this woman, this young girl, something like that. I think it's leading to this idea that she thinks Dina is the immune one. And they're gonna play with that maybe, whether it be on the surface or below the surface. I don't know. So I'm fine with them skipping that scene, but I'm not fine with them going backwards into the relationship between Dean and Ellie. It should have
Yeah.
just moved forward instead of having this weird juxtaposition. Um, you reminded me of something else, and I forgot what it was now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, again, that's the other thing too. And this is not. I could have talked about this non-spoiler in a non-spoiler way, but since we're doing it in a spoiler way, I don't know how well they're going to be able to at this point translate how you get to feel about Abby through watching it. I think there's something about playing it. I think there's something about experiencing it. And I think there's very much something, again, about being a mystery up until a midway point
Yep.
and seeing that scene again. I don't know if they're going to show that scene in one way, but seeing that scene that starts to make the turn a lot more simply. And I just like, I'm confused if there's going to be people who will get on board at all with Abby at this point. I feel like they're just going to, and there are people again who play the game. I still see in the same way. So I'm like, oh, I hate her. I still hate her, but whatever. Or like, there are people who get to like, I get what she did. I don't like the way she did it, but I don't want to see her get hurt, kind of thing. And that's fine. But I don't think it's not that I don't see how they translate that with the way they're going in the show that people will end up being for Abby at
I
all.
also feel like too though this is I guess a spoiler in a sense.
But we're in the
They
spoiler section,
yeah,
so it's fine.
they the whole conversation with Gail, she said something about like some people can't be saved. I feel like that's also like foreshadowing shit. Like they didn't need to say that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Like, I think that a lot of her lines in the original meeting with Joel too work very well for the whole grand thematics. Like that whole thing about if you can't say it out loud, then you're not going to be able to heal it, kind of thing. Especially when that with Ellie, that makes it that's a big thing. So putting that in that speech for her is a grand thing and all. But I do feel like it is more it feels like exposition dumps compared to just being able to recognize it. Like, and again, that's the thing that like I spoke before the show even started about the idea of like I love how the game deals with the idea of Abby's dreams and how they show you the effects of what really means something to her in her life because she even after killing Joel, has still these dreams, and it's not until she saves Yara and Lev that her mind is freed again. That she's back because she was this person who was all for the good things in life, and then she was turned into this monster. But showing the dream so early on, I think, even though I love the fact that they're playing into that, I feel like showing it kind of takes away from the real emotion of that as a viewer. I mean, you can show it, but like, don't, the first time should just be her, like the game, waking up clearly out of a nightmare. And then just kind of, and instead, and especially with the way they do in the show, where she just kind of like calmly opens her eyes instead of being, you know, taken like it's taken her life away again, from waking up. I'm babbling. I'm babbling.
I
Not me. Stop. Oh, Jesus. Um,
didn't love this episode.
I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. Um, but I'm still very confused about the why you dropped the scars in for a little bit. I think it just could have showed the scarred dead bodies after, and then again, flash back to it when we get to that portion of the story, which, you know, they're clearly going to show Isaac and the scars, and dealing with their thing. And I won't say anything about the thing I saw in the trailer. Um, but it's, we'll see. We'll see. I really, the problem is that I want to talk to the world, with the world. I want to talk with the world about all the amazing things that this piece of media is trying to do. And for people who are watching the show, it's going to take a long time to get there. And
Like next year, well,
not even, I don't think. I mean, because we're not going to be able to talk about that fucking ending until like 3 or 4 years from
oh
now.
my God.
And again, they can always do things differently, and we know they will. But I'm gonna, and I'm trying not to be this person. I'm gonna fucking riot if Ellie is not just sitting Indian style in the fucking ocean at what the end of this fucking game, at the end of this fucking show. I mean, there'll be some stuff after that, I guess. But if the two of them, even though that's one of the two things about the game that really bothers me is the fact that, and I understand they're adrenaline pumped, they're fighting and all this other stuff, but all
We
that
should probably
salt
cut
water in those
before
wounds would
this.
really fucking affect me.
Oh, you heard me? I said we should cut before this.
Oh, why? Oh, what's the spoil? It's the spoiler section, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
but I think too spoiler.
too spoilery. All right, we're too far. Okay, well, salt water and wounds ain't good. It ain't nobody. That's what you'd be screaming about. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you stayed around this long to hear us talk about the spoiler portion. Until next time, we've been in shambles. We are in shambles.